We're delighted to have partnered with NordVPN again for this season. We partnered with them last year, and they are, of course, a supporter of Rangers FC as an official sponsor there. And best of all, we can give you an exclusive NordVPN deal. If you go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand, you will get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and one additional month for free. Completely risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee with Nord. And look, I use this product. I would highly recommend it. I used to work in web, so I know how easy it is to steal people's data, especially if you're using a Wi-Fi system that is a shared one, or you're using 4 or 5G, then your details can be out there. With NordVPN, they're absolutely not. And there are other advantages to it as well. You can watch sporting events that maybe aren't being shown in your region. You can purchase flights from different virtual locations, and they do make your flights cheaper. This is very, very useful. What a price is in the UK isn't the same as what a price is in America or a price is on the continent. NordVPN can save you money. You can buy purchasing subscriptions from other countries at a cheaper price, and you protect your data while travelling and using public Wi-Fi. I keep coming back to that. Anyone who's at the hassle of a cancelled card will know what I'm talking about. So all you need to do is go to nordvpn.com/heart and hand, and you'll get a huge discount off your plan and 1 month additional free, completely risk-free. I urge you to do it. Hello everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar, and as always, I am your host, and I'm joined tonight by the young team on Heart and Hand. First of all, the pride of Linwood, the Rose of Paisley, is David Marshall.
How you doing, mate? Yeah, just when I thought it was safe to go back in the water and we had 33 days, what it is, without Rangers, you asked if I could come on this tonight. So, cheers for that.
Well, I think something nice should come out of Paisley this week.
True enough.
Yeah, so I thought, why not grab Dave? And joining him, he might not have any ears, but he is our very handsome young Ross Hutton.
Thank you, David. Good to be here. Cheers, mate.
Right.
Can we not just talk about something nice? Like, we were talking about the 2003 season in the group chat. That was magic. Let's talk about that.
Kanija, Arveladze, Arteta.
Won a treble.
Treble, yeah. I mean, that was a lot of fun.
I mean, we fucked it in Europe, but we always did. But we made up for it.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, this year I wouldn't mind some domestic success. And if the league campaign isn't terminal now with 9 points, it's certainly in the intensive care section of the hospital. David, of course, let's just get straight to it. Might have changed by the time people come to listen to this, but at the time of recording, nothing has changed. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst still the Rangers manager, and all sorts of opinions, of course. But I have to say, the vast majority of the people that I know and the people that have contacted me, and our listeners, social media, Twitter, which is not. It's not a scientific guide, but
no.
The vast majority seem to be thinking that his time should be over. Obviously, he's always going to have his defenders, so I don't want to speak on behalf of people and say every Rangers fan wants him out, because it's not true. But we've been saying for weeks that we felt the support had turned, and to be honest, I think a lot of fans are moving into the kind of acceptance and apathy stage, and that for me is always worse than anger as a fan, because you just go, well, this is it. He's not going to change it. And if I was a club, that's what I would be more worried about than anger, because apathy is when people drift.
Yeah, I mean, we can't say what happened at the weekend in Paisley was a surprise. We can't say it was totally out of the blue. Nobody's seen us dropping points against St Mirren at the weekend. I think we all could have seen it coming. There was nothing there that shocked us. We didn't learn anything new about this team, about the management, that we didn't already know or we already feared. This is how we are. We're now into November. This is how our league season has went. And as things stand, David, if we are not looking to make any changes, and as you say at the time of recording, we haven't made any changes, this is how the season is going to go.
Yeah, and Ross, I mean, we can debate that. We have debated the rights, and I'm conscious of not boring the listeners because we've been talking about this now for weeks. David's right when he says, first of all, it wasn't a shock. I think, I said earlier in the week, somebody said to me, oh, these two games, what are you thinking? And I said, well, I think we'll beat Hearts, but I'll be honest, I'm not 100% confident about St Mirren because the away form under Gio hasn't been good enough. Not many defeats, but plenty of, I think just Celtic and then that one in Perth, but a lot of draws. And Rangers can't be taken. I think it was 38 out of 57 last season, and I think it's 11 out of 21 this season. Rangers can't be taking 50, 55, 60% of points on the road because you won't win the league with it. And while I accept that, Celtic have been very consistent this year, unfortunately in Scottish football at any given point, the measuring stick for Rangers is, are you first? And it doesn't really matter. The excuse of, well, they're doing really well doesn't count. So it might be unfortunate on the manager, but it's just the reality of the situation. And this is not just about Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. These players, that's a different thing and we'll come to. But a lot of these players have shown for a number of years that they have this thing away from home, that they do have this in their locker. And as David said, wasn't a shock.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of that. Going back to what yourself and David spoke about there in terms of the apathy, that's where I've found myself in the past couple of weeks. I was watching the game with James Forrest ahead of the B team game on Saturday, and when St Mirren scored,
God, you had a hell of a weekend, didn't you?
The B team game was good.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, always is. But I said to James when St Mirren scored, just almost surprised myself about how unmoved I felt. Angry, obviously, you never want to go one goal down, but it didn't register in the way that it normally would. It's just I could see it coming, and that's where that apathy starts to seep in. And if people start to vote with their feet, which I think if Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is still in a job come the flip side of this World Cup break, they will start to do, then that's seriously damaging to us as a club in a whole host of reasons. So there's a bigger picture element to kind of get into there as well. The away form, it's death by 1,000 cuts. I think I've said this so often on here because we don't lose an awful lot of games, but when we do, we tend to get hammered off for Celtic, or you have that effort in Paisley, if you can even Perth, if you can even call it an effort. I mean, you're seeing this away form and you're seeing it develop over a period of time. We don't have any body of evidence that it's going to improve, and that's the big thing that I'm looking at now. If we were playing well, right, and really, really putting the effort in and really trying, you could see what Van Bronckhorst was trying to do, and we were just getting unlucky. And maybe the performances didn't quite match up with the results. Then maybe you can make a case for the defence, but that's not been the case at all. The performances have merited every single result that we've got. We deserve to lose in Perth. We deserve to drop points in Paisley. We deserve to drop points at home to Livingston. And that's damning on a Rangers side that should be going for a title. You mentioned the players there as well. Some of them have absolutely disgraced themselves. I'm sure we'll talk about individuals in the future, but they are also culpable as to where we find ourselves as a club and as a side, and they have badly let the manager down. But it is still your job as a manager to try and get a tune out of the players. He has been unlucky with injuries and subsequent form that players have found themselves in. Tav, for example, injured and badly out of form, one of the key players in this side. But again, this squad should still be going and winning in Perth and winning at home against Livingston and winning away at Paisley, and it's just not doing that. And I see no body of evidence that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst can turn that around, and that's the unfortunate part of where we are. Now, I think as a support, even though we might not be unanimous, and again, like you, I don't want to speak for everyone and say that we're all Gio out, so to speak, but we all kind of see him as a nice guy. We like him as a figure. It's just not working as a manager. It's a purely professional decision. This has to be, there can't be any room for sentiment, which I think must be the only thing keeping him in a job right now. That idea that he might have credit in the bank, which I don't really think he does anymore.
I think what's keeping him in a job is that there's about 4.5 million reasons for it, and every one of them has got a picture of the Queen on them. I mean, look, folks, see, on Heart and Hand, I don't tell any of the podders ever what to think. I tell them that they're wrong when they're wrong, right? Because obviously I'm right. But we don't ever do, when we're coming on a show, right, you say this and I'll say that. And I like to try and balance it. So we tried to find, I did try to find at the podders I want Gio to stay guy, and I couldn't out of 30, 40 podders.
Because Strider was busy tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah, which is probably telling. The best defence I've heard of him, or the most defence I've heard from people is it's not just him. And that's right. I mean, that is true. Wilson has to take a lot of culpability. The board has to take a lot of culpability. And that squad definitely needs to take a lot of culpability. Firstly, for how it was allowed to get to this stage. And secondly, for the performances that a lot of them are putting in.
But that's also not a defence of the manager either.
Exactly. That, different things can be the reason. It's not binary. And it's not... It's not that they're set against and you can't have one without the other. They can all play a part, and there's a lot of shades of grey there. I mean, I think you can break it down, Davey, into themes, recurring themes that we hear. First of all, in terms of Gio, in terms of his defence, the recurring themes you hear are injuries, Europa League final, and the people who want him out. What you hear is no playing style, players seem to have chucked it. And there's truth in all of those. And it just comes down to your own individual decision as to what, do you believe that given time and players coming back from injury and new signings, and because that dressing room needs to be cleared out, and that happens, will Van Bronckhorst be the guy to do it? And I just haven't seen enough in the last 12 months to say, yeah, I can hang my hat on him.
No, I mean, you want to talk about getting to the Europa League final last year, which I am just about at the end of talking about it. I think with this AGM coming up next month, if I was to give advice to the board, it would be you're not allowed to mention the phrases 55, look where we were, and Europa League final, because that is in the past, and frankly, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with how broken the team is now, and what a failure the season has been to this point, and in terms of league is already looking like a write-off. That doesn't solve any of the problems we are facing. You want to talk about themes? Well, the biggest theme for me is, if we're going to compare it to last season domestically, the reason that we didn't win the league last year is because we couldn't beat Celtic in the league and we dropped too much points to the Dross. And now, as we're sitting here in November 2022, after playing them once, we still couldn't beat Celtic in the league. We got hammered off them again, in fact, and we're still dropping too much points to the Dross. What other than hoping that it's going to change because you want Rangers to win, you want Rangers to win the league like we all do, what basis do you have to think that it's going to turn around? I don't think you can make any argument for it. I think it'd be great if we could, because as Rod said, it would be great to have a guy there like Van Bronckhorst, who played for the club, who was very successful in his time here, to lead us to league titles and a few more cups as a manager. But as lovely as that is, it's just not happening. So we need to look, and the people whose decision this is at the club, they need to look to see what they can do to fix this now, because something is broken.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he would lead us to more trophies. I think he would lead us to more cups, because I think he's a good cup manager. He's good at setting it aside for an individual match. And he is a very, very good tactician. I think he's very good. But it's that consistency in a league that you need to get over the line. And we
need a manager to win the league, and I don't think it's him.
You don't need to be a good side to win this league. You need to be a consistent one, which we're just not going to get under Van Bronckhorst. And there's no body of evidence that we're going to get at any point under Van Bronckhorst, which, again, I think I've said this before as well. I don't think he's a bad manager. I don't think you have the kind of run that we had in Europe last season by being a bad manager.
You can't.
I just don't think he's not a league-winning manager for Rangers, because there is a difference there.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken.
And you're no used to us if you're not, frankly.
We've spoken about this before. Scotland is a kind of strange wee league, and there are certain things that you need to be able to do. And look, let's be honest, the fact that Celtic have gone out and gubbing teams, they've slowed down a bit in the last few weeks, but up to then, Rangers fans are looking at that saying, why aren't we doing that? And that is unfortunately just a fact of life in Glasgow. You can't change it. And that will continue. And I know that I'm sure I'll get some staunch comments. Well, I don't care what they're doing. Well, neither do I particularly, but I care if we can't get 1 point in front of them, which is kind of the whole point.
For me as well, Davey, sorry to interrupt as well. Like, the Gubbins are what they are, but for me, the difference is when you look a couple of weeks ago when Celtic lost an 87-minute winner to Dundee United, and I'm sure we all thought in our heart of hearts that they're probably still going to win it now. When we went 1-0 behind in the first half against Livingston, when we went behind in the first half against Johnston, we went behind in the first half against St Mirren, how many of us really thought, we'll turn this around and win the game?
Yeah, I mean, that's a belief thing. But it comes through evidence and history,
Yeah,
and the more you
evidence.
do it, the more likely you are to do it. And I think that it was similar again on Saturday. Rangers took to the field, and look, it's not a team that under usual circumstances would be playing. Leon King goes off, which means we literally do not have any fit centre backs. Which, of course, that's unlucky, and of course you deserve some understanding on that. But in terms of our attacking play, Ross, there is really no pattern to it. There's no style to it. What it amounts to quite often is get the ball to Tillman, to Kent, to Tav, and hope they do something. And when those players aren't in form, then our threat is massively negated. And I felt for Kent a little bit because he gets a lot of criticism, but when the ball's being passed him, when he's got three guys in front of him and no one moving, then there's not a hell of a lot he can do. So he'll try to take the three guys on and he'll lose the ball more often than not.
I seen a chart the other week there that said that Ryan Kent was actually the top chance creator in the league. I think it was an Opta stat, and I think that speaks volumes about where we're at. Ryan Kent can create all the chances under the sun, but if there's no quality on the other end of those chances to actually put them away, then we have a serious problem, and we have had that for a while. The other two players you mentioned there as well, Tav, like I said earlier, clearly unfit. Not at a overweight type weight, but he's clearly injured, right? And has been for a while.
Your manager and him say that he's not.
We're getting to the point now. They're not pissing on our leg, telling us it's raining. They're pissing on our leg and telling us that's not your leg.
Listen, if there's anyone out there that actually genuinely believes that Tav is fit, then I've got magic beans to sell you. As you would say, David.
This is what I don't understand about it, though. It's like if they say that no, he is fit, then it's like right. Well, he's just playing really, really, really.
So what's the issue then?
Without any excuse, and for me, that's worse.
And from Tav's perspective, right, I can understand as the captain of the side that you want to play through that, especially when we're in a sticky patch and we've not been playing well. You want to be there and to be seen to be there as well, I think, in the eyes of some to try and lead us through that. But it's having a detrimental impact. You obviously have this period now where hopefully he can go away and recuperate and come back fit and firing. How confident I am that's going to be the case is another question, right enough. And then the other player you mentioned there, David, is Malik Tillman, a really promising young talent, and I maybe am a bit of an apologist for Tillman. At times I can understand why people get frustrated, but he is still a kid, right? And like any kid that comes through, he's going to have his peaks and he's going to have his drops. That is just natural in his development cycle and his development journey. The problem is we are throwing him into a position, again, slightly caused by injuries, but we're expecting him to be the main man every single week. It's not going to happen, right? We spoke a lot about young players that come through our own academy, like players like Alex Lowry, who there's a bit of a noise around as well. He would be the same if he was playing in this side week in, week out. You can't expect young players to just jump in and be the man straight away. But when they fall by the side, we have got nobody else that will contribute, and that's damning on so many aspects of the club, noticeably the recruitment, because that should not be the case. We should not be relying on just three players to make essentially all our chances for us.
How have we got to a point where we don't have another right back at the club to just give Tav a rest? Like, surely someone would have noticed that.
See, this is the thing, right? I said earlier on, I believe that Tav wants to play through this injury, and that's fine. I think most football players...
Well, he's got no choice.
No, but this is the thing. He shouldn't have to have a choice. The manager should be removing him from that situation. There's games where Tav has had a chance to be rested, right? That game at home to Dundee in the Cup, Tav should not have played that game. Last 20 minutes of Ajax when he was fucked, right? And we could all see it. He should not have stayed on that pitch. There's been opportunities for Van Bronckhorst to remove him
as he ran that night.
Yeah, and that is a dereliction of duty and a dereliction of a duty of care as well from the management team. Adam Devine is capable, right? He has played first team football before. It's not as though he's a complete novice to it. I'm not saying him play every week, but there has been opportunities where you could take Tav out of the equation, say just go put your feet up for a week, mate. And he's not done that, and he's ran him into the ground as a result.
And see if we don't trust Adam Devine to play in that position, why did we get another right back?
Because,
Zakowski,
well,
exactly.
that's an interesting point, and I think it comes down to the fact that there's been a lot of gambles made that haven't worked. And by that, what I mean is we sort of gambled that Tav would be fit. He hasn't been. We've gambled on signings with questionable injury histories, Suter being the latest, and it hasn't worked. Coming. We gambled that we would get through to the World Cup without suffering much damage, and then we dropped 7 out of 12 points. And these are, 7 out of 15, correct myself there. So these have, gambles that haven't paid off. And when one or two don't pay off, but when multiple ones don't pay off, then you end up very much in the red. And that's exactly what's happened with us. To the game itself then at the weekend, very similar actually to Perth, in that Rangers started, I thought, reasonably well, quite promisingly. St Mirren would point and say that we look dangerous as well, and I would say that that's true, but you would kind of expect that given our central defence. But even so, I thought Rangers were in command, made a couple of kind of decent chances, not great, not sitters, but certainly ones you'd expect maybe to do a wee bit better with, but was looking fine. And then almost inevitably after half an hour, when they haven't got a goal, they stop doing the things they've been doing, and the aimless crossing resorts and the giving responsibility away. And at that point, you're starting to go, into the second half, really bad goal to concede. And Ross, I know you'll defend a B-team boy to the death, but that wasn't an inexperienced mistake. That wasn't a mistake that, and I'm not one of these guys that I've seen saying, Leon King's not good enough, he's made loads of mistakes. Of course he's made loads of mistakes. He's a youngster and he's been put into a horrible situation. Mm-hmm. But that was one he'd have got around the B team for. You've got to clear that, right? Just clear it. But again, that's a confidence thing. When you're confident, you just clear it. But when you're not, you overthink it, you make mistakes, you're not going on autopilot the way you should be. And then they react, which is, they do tend to react, but it's often too little too late. We get the penalty, and Dave, I'll be coming to you for your chat on that in a minute. And we kind of poke about trying to get a winner, as David says. There's no real belief we're going to do it, and 2 more points dropped, and we are where we are. But it was just so predictable. It was literally what we'd seen last week, and it is difficult for a manager to, when he's got games coming up as often as Gio has, to change things and to turn it round. And he doesn't have a lot of players to choose from. But it is the same thing every week with a kind of gradual downward curve, Ross. There's no getting away from that. That is what's happening.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse. And again, this is possibly where the frustration comes from, and I'm talking about that body of evidence that just doesn't exist to support any kind of contrary argument. We have seen enough of this now, especially away from home, to say that this is not going to get better. This is not just a case of he has been incredibly unlucky with injuries, and that is the one and only sole factor. Last season, and I know it might be a wee bit unfair to compare, but last season I don't think the squad was really an issue, and we were still throwing away stupid points away from home. You come into this season and we're doing it again. There is no evidence there to the contrary. You'll get maybe a coin toss of a game that you might get a good performance in, Tynecastle being the noticeable one. But apart from that, no, you're struggling. And the fact is as well, exactly what you're saying, you're spot on. We knew what was going to happen. When I was talking to my mates before the kickoff, and I said, I think if we get the first goal, we might be all right if we take our chances early doors that I expect us to create or be there or thereabouts. If we get to 25 minutes and we've not scored, we are bang in trouble, because we know what this Rangers side does at that point, particularly away from home. What they do is they'll get the ball, like you said, they'll put it out wide, they'll put it into the box, it'll get headed away by a big 6'8" defender, and they'll do the same thing again and again and again, and they'll get the same result again and again and again, because there is no confidence there. You can always tell the confidence of a side by the zip of their passing. What are they doing? What are they doing with the ball? Are they driving forward with it? Are they looking to make creative runs off of it? Are they passing it forward? No, it's a dereliction of responsibility on the players, and that is where they have let the manager down really badly, and a few of them do need to take a serious hard look at themselves, because there's a severe lack of responsibility in that squad, a severe lack of leadership from a lot of players who really should be doing better in that squad, and they have let the manager down.
Yeah,
But on the note of the manager, we have seen enough now to say that is just the way his Rangers side play, and it's not going to get any better.
what concerns me is Feyenoord fans say the same. That the same thing about lack of style of play, passing the ball aimlessly, crossing wide. So it's not a new thing, and it's not just unique here. And as I say, it's strange because in a one-off game, he can set up a team really well tactically and pinpoint the opposition's weakness and stuff. But just, I don't think when we need to be proactive with the ball that we've shown enough that we can win a league doing that. Dave, let's move to the Rangers penalty now. Long-term listeners will know that we've had our complaints with referees on here before, and particularly with Kevin Clancy, whose performance in that game against Aberdeen in January was ludicrous, one of the worst I've ever seen, and I've seen John beaten. And Saturday for me that's why we needed VAR, because Ryan Kent running full pelt with the ball gets taken out. I thought, that's a penalty. Before I had time to actually say out loud, that's a penalty, I hadn't got through it, and he'd been booked. He'd been yellow carded. It was automatic. There wasn't time for Clancy to actually think about the decision or to consult with his linesman if he didn't have a good position. And for me, Dave, it's simply not a credible decision. And here's the reason why. You can say, I don't think there was enough contact for a penalty. Now, I would disagree with that, and it would probably be the wrong decision, but you can say that. It's a justifiable decision, right? Mm-hmm. That's just an opinion, right? That's something that comes down to your subjective viewpoint. What you can't do is say there was absolutely no contact and thus he is cheating and he dived and it's a booking, because it's clearly not that. This is the way Clancy referees us. This is his first thought. That's what he goes to. And it was just simply an awful decision. And it's very hard to look at some of the other decisions we've had from him over the years and not think it's just the way his mind goes when he's refereeing Rangers. And he took about 10 minutes over at the, at some point he was, can I see that replay? Can I see another one? Is there a helicopter one? Does Ryan Kent have any points on his licence? He was looking for so many reasons to not give it, but in the end he had to.
No, I think he was scraping his way through the rule book for any technicality he could find to not give Ryan Kent the penalty for what was as clear as the penalty, as Stonewaller penalty you could ever hope to see. It was an absolutely shocking decision in a long line of shocking decisions from Kevin Clancy. Now, I do watch my fair bit of SPFL games out with ourselves, and I can say that Kevin Clancy is just a terrible referee.
Yeah, he's bad in other games as well.
Yeah,
it's not, it's not just he's not brilliant, and then he turns up at Ibrox and he's rubbish.
He's not the best referee in the world until he referees Rangers. He is just a poor referee, but he does seem to save his absolute belters for when he's officiating Rangers. It's a shocking decision. It's one that should see him, relegated to the League Two games for a few weeks, because if he can, and the worst thing as well, when you watch it back and you see the angle that he has, which is always something I like to do, because it's all very well, particularly in the pre VAR days, when you give 100 replays, but it's important to see it from where the referee was viewing it. Kevin Clancy was right behind it. He could not have wished to have had a better view of the situation, and he still looked directly at that and thought Ryan Kent dived. If that's truly what his thought was watching that happen, then he is absolutely no right officiating at this level.
No, because like I say, you can say not enough contact, it's not a penalty, right? And correct it on VAR, don't get me wrong, but you can't say, there was zero contact and he dived, because it's simply not a credible position to take. But
I would have loved to hear the VAR conversation when he's in conversation with the guys in the truck, because surely the conversation must have been, Kev, the fuck are you doing?
I think the conversation was probably more like, fuck, you're going to have to give that. Oh, you're kidding, hun bastards. Let's face it. But we got the penalty, and not that it made much of a difference for us, because a draw is no use to us, as we know. we now go into this World Cup period, hopeful of getting some players back. I doubt they'll all be back after the break. And this is the thing about, the decision, because say they keep them, because it will die down, right? It will die down in terms of there'll be noise on social media, but they'll be able to get through it. They're away on holiday for 2 weeks, the players and the management staff, and they'll come back. And, people will get ready for the match against Hibs. But if anything goes wrong in those matches, Hibs at home, Aberdeen away, Ross County away, and Celtic at home, if anything goes wrong in those games, you're right back to where you started from, and you've wasted a 5-week window to get a new manager in.
If Gio goes now during this break and you get a new manager in, then everything that's happened before will be blamed on Gio, whether that's right or wrong, but he will shoulder a lot of the blame for the results and the performances. If we come back from this World Cup break and he's still the manager, and then we play Hibs and then go to Pittodrie and then Dingwall and then play at home to Celtic and we don't win all those games, and we're not going to, right? If Van Bronckhorst is the manager, I'll say that with absolute certainty now, then it's the board's fault.
Boo, unstaunch, boo.
No, it's get to, the thick of it stage. If the PM sacks you after a year, it's your
exactly
fault.
It.
If he sacks you after a month, it's their fault. We're in now. If they don't sack him now, I don't see how they can get rid of him between now and the end of the season, because that puts the failure entirely at the board's doorstep.
100%.
If they sack him after the new year.
100%, Dave, and that's exactly what I was going to say. You could not have wished for a more golden opportunity to make the change and get a new guy in when the players come back from their holiday. You have that 3-week period where you can try and embed some new ideas and get them remotivated and rejigged for this new mini season that's coming up. And listen, I think the league's gone. Right?
It feels very 2005, 2006 right now. That's where I feel we are.
But what you do have is an opportunity to play for 2 cups and try and get some respectability back, maybe claw some ground back in the league and kind of set a marker for next season. If you fail to take this opportunity, it's fully on the board, and it would be their fault when we do end up getting drubbed in the league and against Celtic, and the same mistakes keep happening. That would be their fault at that point. There's no hiding place at that.
I think one of the things that really annoys me, and I've heard this from a few people, is, it's a transitional season. No, a transitional season is when you say at the start of it, look, we're going to make some changes that are, we're going to make some changes with a view to being good for the next 4, 5, 6 years. So you ship out players, so you get rid of McGregor, you get rid of Davis, Arfield, etc. You say, thanks very much, you've been great servants, lads, but we need to go a different direction. And you make everyone aware. What you can't do is get midway through a season and it's going pish and then go, it's a transitional season. It doesn't work like that. It's
when
not
3 months ago you had
card.
Directors telling us that this is the best squad they've had since they've been at the club.
Correct.
You can't fucking change your mind 2 months down the line and say it's a transitional period. We heard nothing about this being a transitional period until after the St John's defeat. That won't wash.
I'm sorry, what transition are we going through?
What transition?
You get the same players.
You can't keep a hold of a load of guys in their 30s and say it's a transitional season because you're keeping the same guys.
Honestly, this is genuinely a new one to me, because that's a baffling argument to come away with. A transitional season is if you, at the end of last season, had let the aforementioned players go. Thanks very much. You're always welcome back anytime, but we need to bring new blood in, and you're playing young players and you've maybe got an entire new squad there. You're trying to build and kind of use that as a foundational season to move forward. That hasn't happened. The literal opposite of that has happened. It's not a transitional season. That's a nonsense, and it's not a valid argument.
It could have been, but they decided at the start of the season it was not. So
which is
where
they are.
And I'm not saying, by the way, Rangers fans would have accepted it or been happy about it, but you've got to have the courage of your convictions in there, and you've got to say, look, we're going to bring these guys out. We're bringing younger players in. In terms of, like, for instance, Tillman reminds me a lot of Aribo in his first season. Moments of brilliance and moments where he looks as though he's not there. That was Aribo in the first season. Let's not forget that. Younger players take a while to get fully up to speed, and you could have said, if you brought in another couple, and we've got Tillman and Yilmaz, etc., but this is where we want to go, and we want to set up for the next 5, 6 seasons. And it would have taken some of the pressure off Gio as well, but instead they said, as David said, brilliant squad, and let's get ready to rumble. And we're 9 points behind now. No matter what you might want to say about when Gerrard was there, Rangers were never out of the title race by November.
No.
This is going back to pre-Gerrard days now, and that's why there's so much anger. among the support. You cannot do that if you're Rangers. Now, you can fall a bit short, and we all know that Gerrard's team had a habit of collapsing after the winter break, which is not good enough either. But you can't submit the league really because look, I still want to believe in my heart of hearts, but do I see them dropping 10 points more than us? Not unless they absolutely collapse, and I haven't seen much evidence to suggest that'll be the case. So you have to kind of place in context, right, where are we, what is a season? And if you write the season off as a disastrous season, which it appears the board are prepared to do, then say it. Say we'll review Gio at the end of the season, which is basically nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We're going to keep him, but he's going and we'll get someone else in then. You start to make those changes, transitional changes in January. You start to promote guys from the B team and give them experience to see if they're going to be much use. Another reason why it can't count as a transitional, if it was transitional, Robbie McCrory would be playing ahead of Alan McGregor, right? So there are things you can do, but the actions don't match the words at this point, I think.
No, I'd agree with that. It's we've had mixed messages throughout this season, and you just can't change your mind at this point in November. This season, has been, apart from qualifying for the Champions League group stages, which is starting to become a real worry for me, and this is just all conjecture in my opinion, but I'm starting to think that was the board's not just their main aim, but their one and only aim for this season, which I think is a massive worry. We are a cup exit away from this being a complete failure of a season so far. Domestically, this is absolutely shocking that we are sitting here on the 14th of November and talking about the league being a write-off. And I'm very much of the opinion, and I hate to say it, but I think the league is done. I can't see us catching this, and for us to go into this point in the season, that being the case, and with the messages we received from the club at the start of the season, there needs to be hands held up and said, right, we've made a mess of this. This is what we're going to do to fix it from here on out, to make sure this doesn't happen again next season. And it goes back to what we said at the start of the show, David, when you talked about the gambles we took this season that didn't pay off. My biggest issue with that is we just came off a season where we made a lot of gambles domestically that didn't pay off, and we lost the league. In a season last year that we should have won the league, in my opinion, and that will annoy me forevermore. This is into the second year now where we have handed Celtic another league title, and it's completely our fault.
Yeah, and that's why when it comes to, for example, Ross Wilson, and people say, well, not everyone. A lot of people agree with me on this, but I hear sometimes, well, he sold Bassey and Patterson, etc., and I'm like, yeah, but we blew a league title and we're miles away this year and getting further away from it, and he's the head of football operations. I know he doesn't pick the team, but he does have a big say in picking a lot of the players.
Surely anyone to do with football, the main goal is, are we winning the league or not? That has to be the main aim. If it's not that, then everything else is, is dressing and nice and lovely that we're making all this money off a certain player sales. But even to that now, what value do we have left in the team?
No, that's a very good point.
This summer is now the money that we made from transfer fees this summer is very much looking like a one-off. So we're going into next season with very little value in our squad. What are we then going to do to win the league back then?
And I think that's a kind of valid point into the wider issues we're going to have with the selling club model that we are still in the infancy of trying to kind of bring through at Rangers. The idea of that model is you always have a player ready to go should you need to do it. You always have value in the squad. In the way that the clubs that we have quite openly said, Ajax, Porto, Dortmund, the clubs that we think that we can try and emulate to a scale in our own league in our own way. The point of them is they always have a player ready to go. They always have someone on the market. They always have someone that can, be sold off for massive amounts of money should they need to do so. Ajax this summer, sold a lot of players for tens of millions of pounds. We are not in that position anymore. Our main sellable assets have either been devalued to the point where it's not even a conversation, and the rest of the squad just, as I say, isn't up to that standard where you can sell them for multiple millions of pounds. The model is fine. The way that we have handled that model has been desperately poor, and that does fall on Ross Wilson.
Yeah, and I remember as well a lot of talk after 155. a big part of Ross Wilson's job being continuity, and I think that goes hand in hand with what you're saying there. If we're selling somebody, we need to have somebody lined up to replace them. I don't see a lot of continuity in our thinking behind the football operation right now.
No, and then it's something we've been saying for a long time here. But chickens, that noise you hear are them coming home and having a good old roost outside. You two are young and both still have your hair. That kind of suggests to me that, like a lot of young people, you probably like to have your testicles looking like
I don't
Sean
need to do
Connery.
one of these two.
Now, there's no way, Ross, that you don't have baldy balls.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a man who's a fan of his hygiene.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I mean, you're a shambles and hulking wreck of a human being. So you probably do look like a bus kebab in there. But you could look like Ross's balls if you got a kit from Manscaped. Manscaped are the market leaders in the perverted art of testicular baldness. And if you go to their website, manscaped.com, and you use the code Rangers, you'll get 20% off. 20% off! How great is that? Now, I don't think it's particularly great because, it's a vile hobby in my opinion, right? Oh my God, can you imagine? And what does it look like afterwards? Seriously, right? Honestly, it must look like a bit of buttered bread that's dropped on the floor. But if you're into that, right, and a lot of you are, and you want to support, Christmas is coming, and I'm sure a lot of you hope to be as well over the Christmas period, well, you might as well look your best for your partner, be male or female or whatever these days, right? So knock yourselves out, go to manscaped.com, buy your filthy product, and that'll be all. I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, every week I do this, I feel like I can hear John Knox's ghost.
I've got a fucking journalism degree, and this is what I'm resorted to.
This podcast has just peaked with the phrase, you could look like Ross's balls.
Yeah, I mean, Ross's, I've said to Manscaped before, do you need a picture of Ross's balls? That's kind of why we held you down.
I think we should ask our viewers, viewers or listeners,
viewers, aye.
Who wants a picture of Ross's balls? Get your comments in on the Patreon, Spotify, wherever, on the Facebook and Twitter. Let us know if you'd like a picture with Ross's balls, and we'll sort something out with Manscaped. Use the code the Rangers. You'll get a free picture of Ross's balls along with your head package.
The thing is as well though that the thing is as well though that you won't hear it if you're on Patreon. So if you hate this section of the show, folks, then you know what to do. Sign up for us on Patreon. It's just $1.99 and ad free over there. Right, folks, that will do us for this week on Heart and Hand. And, of course, we're going to be off for a couple of weeks. We will be putting out, though, some shows in that period. So don't worry, there'll still be shows dropping into your pod player, however you listen to your podcast. So if you're on YouTube, there'll still be some pods coming from Heart and Hand, but obviously not discussing matches because there are none. And, Ross, you'll be co-hosting our World Cup coverage over on Heart and Hand.
Yes, I was about to correct you there. There is, of course, going to be coverage of matches, just the ones that we can actually sit and enjoy watching and look forward to seeing. James and I are co-hosting the World Cup coverage this year. We're really excited. As of tomorrow, you're going to have daily shows right throughout the tournament. We've got build-up and preview shows right throughout this week, leading up to the big kick-off on Sunday, and then daily shows after it, talking about all the games, all the goals, all the players. It's really, really exciting, and I'm genuinely looking forward to it.
Yeah, it will be fun. I wouldn't go there if you paid me, but
no.
I don't need to, so I can just sit and watch it in the house. Right, thank you to our executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and thank you to my wonderful guest, first of all, David Marshall.
Cheers, mate. Just want to say as well, I will be bringing back for long-time listeners 6 of the best, and we'll be starting off with 6 of the Baldies Rangers balls, so look forward to that dropping. Dropping balls. You get it, though. 2 of them are Ross's. And thank you to Ross Hutton.
Thanks very much, boys. This has cheered me up. Cheers.
We'll be back, as I say, in a few weeks with the normal show. But till then, hope you enjoy the ones that are coming your way, the specials. So enjoy the World Cup, folks. And at least Rangers can't ruin your weekend for a few weeks. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.